presenter I'd like to introduce is Prosper Bamford, who's also a nurse practitioner. Prosper was born in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, came to Australia, migrated to Australia over 20 years ago, did her undergraduate studies at La Trobe University in Bendigo in 2005, then followed up with her honours the following year. And as Prosper states, fell in love with aged care nursing during her first year of university training and requested that part of her graduate year be undertaken in a residential aged care. So that's, having that passion from the start. That's great, Prosper. Prosper also completed her certificate in gerontological nursing with the Collaborative Health Education and Research Centre. And as with Kira with the awards, was awarded the Lynn Gale Award for the most outstanding student. Prosper has worked in multiple roles at multiple residential aged care facilities, and in 2015, Prosper completed her nurse practitioner ARPA recognised training. And Prosper hasn't stopped there because she's currently undertaking her PhD whilst working full-time as a nurse practitioner at Curtin University with a topic of the role of nurse practitioners in rationalising chemical restraints in residential aged care. Prosper, welcome. We look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. I don't have a presentation because I like to talk. You can't stop me from talking. My story is a bit different in that I didn't come to Australia already as a nurse. So I actually was the opposite when I was at home. Health was nowhere near what I wanted to become because my father's a neurosurgeon. And he always said, I want you to do better than me. And you kept thinking, well, what's better than a neurosurgeon? So I thought, nah, stay away from health. So that way you'll never have to be compared to him at all and do something different. But my story changed when I moved to Australia a few years later. And my daughter, within 24 hours of us coming to Australia, my daughter became very unwell. Dehydration from the long flight. I didn't even realize the symptoms. She was vomiting blood, and I thought she was being a little brat, not wanting to eat, until one of the people who was mentoring us, she was a nurse, walked into our hotel and took one look at my daughter and said, that child is very unwell. We'll do the conversations later. And she put her in the car, and we were in ED very quickly. And all this conversation, and I'm just sitting there and I'm going, what is happening here? But I could see her advocacy for my daughter. When you were migrants, we had no Medicare in place, we had no private health in place. It was a Sunday afternoon, and there's all this talk about how are they going to pay for it, and she was like, that's not my problem, you're going to look after this child. And she really advocated for my daughter. And that showed me a very different picture to nursing that day. And I went, wow, because very soon my daughter was in ED, having all the treatment, and we end up in hospital for a few days till she got better. And the care that she received from the nurses in the kids' ward was so amazing. And I thought, hang on, you can actually make a difference when you're looking after someone. And that really changed my attitude. And then, I had a baby, and as soon as I had a baby, I couldn't wait to start my nursing. I remember turning up to class with a 3-month-old baby, and full-time class, a stroller on the side. So I used to sit on the aisle because we had a stroller, and making sure that So I really enjoyed my nursing, as I said. I loved my placements, and just felt like that's where I wanted to be in aged care. Even when I, did my grad year in the acute sector, and some of it in acute sector, I just had that longing for being back in the aged care place with, because I grew up in a culture with surrounded by grandmas and granddads, and here I am now. I'm a migrant, no family, and it was just like I wanted to belong somewhere. And I felt that when I was in aged care, I belonged, because I could see the resident today, and I could see them tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And they were interested in what I was doing. They wanted to know about me. So there were people. They were not just sick people. So it really changed the way I saw aged care. And I thought, yep, I'm just going to stay here. And I remember even doing my honors studies in aged care, working with dementia already, wanting to know and understand what is it about this dementia. because it was an illness that I wasn't familiar with. Yet, after understanding, I realized actually, we do have a few grandmas and granddads back home who've got dementia, but we just don't call it dementia. So it was interesting then to work in that environment. I worked my way up. As you know, you walk into aged care, and the workload is there, but you just, there's always something that draws you back. And so I worked my way up from just being an RN to being an RN in charge, to then becoming a care manager. And then it was, during my care manager years that I decided I would do my grad set in gerontology. But also then I thought, oh, well, I've started it. I love studying. I want to know more. And also because I was very surrounded by very negative nurses from the acute sector, always saying to me, why did you go to aged care? Only people who are ready to retire go to aged care. And that really drove me, because I'm like, hang on, that's not true. The people we're looking after in aged care actually make up majority of everybody in medical ward anyway. So you can't be telling me that, so that actually drove me to say, no, that's not right. And I'm going to prove you guys wrong, because a lot of my colleagues went into ICU and ED, and I said, no, I'm staying in aged care. Oh, you're wasting your time there. I said, no, I'm not. So I actually, enjoyed doing all the studies, and my organization was having this good career progression. You can come in as an RN, you can become a care manager, then we can mentor you to become a general manager. That was the pathway that was there. And I remember sitting with my boss one day, and he's saying to me, you haven't provided us your education plan. I said, well, actually, my plan is different. So I wanted to talk to you in person instead of giving it to you on a piece of paper, because I don't want to be a general manager. And he said to me, well, then, but that's the only future, in aged care. I said, no, nobody's explored nurse practitioners in aged care. And he's like, oh, I don't know if there's any in the country. I said, well, then I'll be the first one if that's what it takes. But I knew there was others dotted left, right, and center. And he was very good, sat with me down, said, right, so what do we need to support you in this career pathway? You do understand that you're not going to have many mentors in the business because no one's gone this way. And I said, that's fine, because we've got GPs in the business. So they'll be my mentors for now. And there's other NPs elsewhere I can always reach out to. So I reached out to a few GPs who had patients in my home, and they said, by all means, we'll support you. And so they were very supportive. I was given, time off the floor every week when they turned up. It was set time where we did classes and presenting cases and everything else. And I had a very supportive manager at the time that understood that was my passion. That's where I was going. Every now and then she'd always remind me, you'd make a really good general manager, haven't you changed your mind? And I'd say, no, this is my pathway. And I pretty much, as Srijana said before, there is so much that a nurse in aged care does compared to the little silos that you can have in acute sector. And I remember people saying to me, so are you going to have trouble getting endorsed? Because what are you going to prove to APRA in terms of advanced practice nursing, because you're in aged care? And I said, actually, I have no trouble. My portfolio is this huge because of everything that I do. I am the oncology nurse. I am the incontinence nurse. I am dealing with Parkinson's. So neurology, neurology, I'm dealing with dementia. And I said, so I'm okay. I'm not concerned. And I did, as I, back then you had to provide a portfolio with all these case studies and everything else you'd done to APRA. And I did not have most of my colleagues that had gone through from the ED that thought that everything had been covered had, please explain, or can you do a few more hours because we don't think that was advanced enough. Well, I put my portfolio in and I just got a congratulations, because I could prove that there was a lot of work and I was confident and I was passionate about what I was doing and the difference I was going to make in aged care. Because I get a lot of nurses coming to me and saying, do I need to work in critical care before I can go do my studies as an NP? And I'll always say to them, and who are you going to be intubating in aged care? So use the skills that you're going to require for where you are going to be. There's quite a lot of work in aged care and a lot of skills that are required. So I actually, enjoyed that. when someone says, oh, as a migrant, what do you bring to the table? As I said, I found that because now I spend a lot of time with people with dementia, and cognitive impairment. We grew up with grandmas and granddads that told us stories. We loved stories. We always sat down. We were so, every time my grandma said, "Sit, I've got a story," I'd sit down. Everything else gets dropped away. Now, when I walk into a facility and they say, Mary is unstable, or Mary is this, and I say, "Tell me more. Let's have a story, Mary." And Mary will start telling you things that happen, what's been happening during the day or what's happening at night. And I have that ability to just sit and listen. That's a skill that I've carried on from my culture. And I just sit and I grasp a lot of information that I can walk out and say, right, this is the reason why Mary is pacing up and down, because she's got ABC. And they go, "You got that from the story?" And I said, yes. I was able to get it from her story, what is actually happening behind the scenes. So I found that really is a skill that never underestimated. So if you grew up with lots of grandmas, use those skills. Listen. There's always a trigger. People say to me, "Oh, some behaviors, we don't know what the trigger is." There's always a trigger. Listen, and you'll hear what the trigger is. And family means everything to our culture. And I'm still here with just my immediate family. So, I still then birthdays. I walk into a facility and somebody's done some cakes for me. The residents have remembered that, it's her birthday. They've signed a card for me. Sometimes, you got to work out who signed it because, now you can't see the handwriting. But the thought is the thought that she needs family and we are her family. And you don't get that anywhere else except being in aged care. Because in acute care, you'll nurse them today and tomorrow they're gone. In aged care, they'll remember your birthday this year and the next until they can't remember it anymore. And so I love that, there's that connectivity in aged care. And also, if you've been a migrant, what have you done? You've pretty much left everything behind. You've pretty much walked away. When we came to Australia, we had 2 suitcases. That's all we had. Didn't know anyone, didn't know how we were going to be. Were we going to be liked by the people that we were going to meet? Were we going to fit in? No different to the residents when they come into our home. I was just having a chat with a lady today. She left a 150-acre farm. She had cows. She was doing all this, and now she's in just a 4-room, 4-walled building now. Everything's gone. Yet, I was able to sit down with her and say, "Tell me more. Tell me more. Let me understand your loss." Because then I can also share my story of my loss. And then we can sit together and talk and find something in common, which turns out that then, despite her being so many miles away, as we were talking, she was a farmer. She used to organize her wool through the Bendigo wool mill where I live in Bendigo. So see, by just talking, we found something in common. I've promised her next time I'm driving past the Bendigo wool mill, I'll take a photo and I'll send it to you so you can remember your farming days. So, things like that, small conversations, small connections, because we can relate. So I know that many people think, I've got nothing to offer. I'm a migrant. How am I going to fit in? I've got an accent. Hey, I've got an accent, but they'll still understand. People will understand in the middle of that accent. They'll still get you. Some of us, especially, have got fun, what we call funny names. I'm Prosper. People always say, "Is that a name? Is that a real name?" And I'll just go, "Yeah, Prosperous New Year. Is that easy to remember?" So all the residents just look at me now and they go, "Is it New Year yet?" Yes, it is. It's Prosper in there, So this, we always have something to offer. That makes a difference, and it's the care that because these are people, these are human beings that are just like us, that have got desire to belong, a desire to be looked after, and we have that. And so just as something to tell someone, if you're in here and you're wondering, well, can I make a difference? Yes, definitely. Walking in with a smile makes a big difference. Tell your story, listen. and just enjoy being at work. I know it can be hard because sometimes we work multiple jobs because we got family back home, and so we've got to send money so we can support them. So you can easily then feel tired and just see it as a task and not something that you relate to. But I found that being in aged care actually helps me a lot, and I do a lot of work now with telehealth via the virtual emergency department. So I reach out to more elderly people via the screen, and making a difference to them via that they weren't able to get to see a doctor straight away, but they were able to see me, and I was able to help out with whatever they were going through, whether it's dementia and they're distressed, pain, infection, and sometimes all they just want is a chat. Sometimes, they'll tell the nurses they're feeling unwell, I want to go to hospital, and the nurses don't know what to do, so they call the ambulance, or they'll call us, and when you start talking to them, they just wanted to chat because there's this thing that's niggling that I didn't know who to talk to, and I thought if I went to hospital, someone would listen. But okay, you're here now, let's talk, and I'll tell you, and so it makes a difference when you do that, and I actually really enjoy my job. I feel like every day I get to make a difference to even just one person. And so, yeah, I hope that's encouraging for anybody with questions, or, yeah, that's me.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your great story. And again, things that you say resonate with all of us who are here. And the one that I always think about, and I chuckle because we know it's ridiculous, is that when, other nurses might have said to you, I had it said to me, you go to aged care to, for an easy life, easy ride. And we know how that's anything but. So